evening. As you can tell by the lack of music, this is going to be one of those videos that is serious and to the point, and I'm going to try to restrain myself as much as I can in terms of what I say, what I think, and what I find appropriate to discuss at this particular moment. I'm going to read this. This is from the USA Today about the details concerning the Covenant school shooting. So bear with me, okay? Thank you. Alright. Covenant school shooting updates 3 children, 3 adults dead after an intruder opens fires in Nashville. Victims' names released. Nashville, Tennessee, the shooter who killed 6 people, including 3 children, at the Nashville Elementary School Monday, had detailed maps of the facility, considered another target, and left behind writings that may shed light on the motives, police said in an afternoon news conference. The attacker, identified as someone I'm not going to mention right now, was a former student at the Covenant School who broke in Monday morning by shooting the glass from the door. The intruder gunned down 3 young students and 3 staff members before being confronted and killed by police, Metro Nashville Police Department Chief John Drake said. The intruder carried 2 AR-style weapons, one a rifle and the other a pistol, along with a handgun, said Drake, adding that 2 of the arms were purchased legally in Nashville area, but he did not say which ones. The police said 5 officers promptly responded to a 911 call that arrived at 10:13. When they arrived, the shooter fired on the arriving police vehicles from the second-story window. The Nashville police tweeted, showing pictures of the bullet-pierced windows of the police cruisers. The officers found the assailant on the second floor of the building housing the school and the Presbyterian church and neutralized the threat at 10:27 in the morning, police said. I was hoping this day would never ever come here in the city, Drake said, but we would never wait to make entry and go in and stop a threat, especially when it deals with our children. Police initially identified the shooter as female, but later the person was assigned female at birth and later identified as male. That is something we will discuss at a later time. I'm not going to discuss that now. Drake said officers found written material along with a map describing how the assault would unfold, as well as a plan to shoot up a different Nashville school that the person scrapped because it was too much security. Asked if there was a correlation between the shooter's gender identity and the attack, Drake said, there is some theory to that. We're investigating all the leads, and once we know exactly, we will let you know. Which I agree with because it's too soon for that. And I'll get into that later. Victims identified, 3 of them under age 10. Police identified the victims as Evelyn, I'm going to try this name, in Deckhaus, Dieckahaus, so I'm trying. William Kinney and Holly Scruggs, all of them age 9. Along with that, Mike Hill, who is 61, Catherine Kuntz, who is 60, and Cynthia Peak, who is 61. Drake later said one of the children was 8 and about to turn 9, but did not specifically say who. The Tennessean said Kuntz was the school's headmaster. 3 children and 2 adults were taken to the Monroe Carey Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt with gunshot wounds. All 5 were pronounced dead there, said Craig Boner, spokesperson for the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. The 6th victim was not taken to the hospital, police spokesman Don Aaron said. This is the ultimate crime when school children and caregivers are the victims of senseless gun violence, Glenn Funk, Davidson County District Attorney General, said in the news conference. What's happening in the Covenant school shooting? The shooter entered through the side entrance of the school, went to the second floor, firing multiple shots, Aaron said, adding that all the doors were locked. The police received the call of an active shooter at 10:13 in the morning. Aaron said, officers responded swiftly, entered the first floor, and began clearing the area. He said, they immediately went into the gunfire. He said, 2 of the 5 officers on the floor opened fire on the shooter and killed the shooter by 10:27 a.m., Aaron said. The intruder was in a lobby-type area, not a classroom, Aaron also said. Kendra Loney, the spokesperson with Metro Fire and Rescue crews, responded and tried to save lives. The remaining students were escorted out of the building with faculty and staff, and buses took them to a site where students were being reunited with their parents, Loney said. We're sure that they heard the chaos that was surrounding this, she said. One police officer had a hand injury from the cut glass, Loney and Aaron said. No one else was wounded, Aaron said. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigations will assist with the Metro Nashville Police Department in the investigation, said TBI Director David Rausch. Officials with the FBI and special agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives were on the scene. President Biden says we have to do more. With respect to President Biden, I'm not going to go into this because that is concerning a little shade of politics, which I don't feel like discussing at the moment. But I will say that the First Lady, Joe Biden, commented on the attack during her opening remarks at the National League of Cities event in Washington. She said, I am truly without words. Our children deserves better, she said. We stand, all of us, with Nashville in prayer. What is the Covenant School in Nashville? The Covenant School is a private school founded in 2001 that serves the students in pre-kindergarten through 6th grade, according to the website. On a given day, slightly over 200 students and 42 staff members were at the school, Aaron said. The school is on the campus of the Covenant Presbyterian Church in the city's Green Hills neighborhood, about 9 miles southeast of downtown Nashville. It's next door to the Nashville Fire Department station and less than a mile south from Nashville's largest shopping district. Because of the church operates a school, no Nashville police officers were assigned to the building, Aaron said. The officers were reviewing the video from the school, he said. This is the 89th shooting on school grounds this year. The attack marks the 89th shooting on K-12 school grounds in 2013, according to the K-12 school shooting database. Last week, a 17-year-old student shot and wounded 2 faculty members at a high school in Denver. I was literally moved to tears to see this and the kids as they were being ushered out of the building, Drake said. There have been 130 mass shootings in the United States in this calendar year, according to the nonprofit Gun Violence Archives, which defines a mass shooting as at least 4 people injured. Illinois resident Ashby Beasley was on vacation and was a block away from the school when she heard the shots Monday morning. Beasley, who was at the 4th of July parade in Highland Park last summer, when a gunman opened fire and ran over to the scene. Aren't you tired of us, she said, taking over the microphones after the news conference. How is this still happening? Tennessee officials heartbroken over the school shootings. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee said he was closely monitoring the tragic situation. Nashville Mayor John Cooper thanked the first responders and medical professionals and said his heart goes out to the families of the victims. He wrote on Twitter, in a tragic morning, Nashville joins a dreaded and long list of communities to experience a school shootings. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn says she was heartbroken to hear about the shooting. She wrote on Twitter, my office is in contact with federal, state, and local officials, and we stand ready to assist. Thank you to the first responders working on site. Please join us in prayer for those affected. Adriana Battle, director of the Metro Nashville Public Schools, said that she was grieving today over the tragedy and murder of children and school staff right here in our community, calling the killings an unimaginable loss of life. We don't know all the details of how or why this happened. We may never fully know, Battle said. At Metro schools, we have invested considerable resources to strengthen security at our facilities in response to far too many, far too often instances of school shootings across the nation over the years. Church service remembers child. At Woodmont Christian Church, a box of tissues sat at the end of each pew as the solemn crowd began the long process of grieving for the victims. Senior Minister Clay Stauffer shared through tears the story of Evelyn DeCaes. At the end of the service, DeCaes was the third grader of the Covenant School, and her sister, a fifth grader, is a member of the disciples class at the church. Evelyn's sister cried as she said, "I don't want to be an only child." Woodmont Christian Church will be organizing a fund for the affected families as a way to help counseling costs. Okay. I've done a number of these videos over the years, since I've been on YouTube and even prior to YouTube, when I was just doing this on Facebook. As of the shooting in Colorado at the club, I made it a point to mention how at the time of that shooting, when I started seeing people's responses to it, political responses, that at that point it was not yet a week, and people were already starting it. First, I made my disapproval of it clear when TYT did it, when they went through a thoughtful retelling of what happened at the club, and then Sink decides to go into his scree about gun control. As I said in that video representing that, whether I agree with that or not is irrelevant, because it was too soon to even discuss it, because of the people who were lost. Days later than that particular shooting, then individuals of those who consider themselves conservative or right-leaning or Republican or whatever, decided to put their own 2 cents concerning the status of the person who was shooting and the status of the people who died in the club. And I took offense to some of that. I'm not going to go into all the detail of that, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I'm trying to restrain myself as to what I'm going to discuss about this. This is why I didn't mention the name of the person, and I really didn't want to go into the controversy that is springing up over it. The police were called at 10:13 in the morning. The particular person was dead by 10:27 in the morning. I was at work from 4 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. to 10. Kept checking my phone and kept watching from Twitter of the various people that were discussing it and why they were discussing it and what was the point of them discussing it. And it was certainly none of them was talking about the children or the faculty members that died. They were talking about matters that is not appropriate to get into hours after these poor people died. I can understand why people want to have these conversations about these particular issues that I'm not getting into right now. I understand that. I understand to some they are important. Other issues that could also be brought up is also important. And I understand the need, especially in this day and age, to pull that political spin. But what I don't understand is why it has to be now. Why can't you give it a moment? Why? Why is it necessity to go into the details upon like the shooter and what can be discussed about the shooter later? And how people made that more important than those who died. I'm all in favor of talking about this particular individual and the controversy surrounding this particular individual. Go into what the New York Post says upon what this person left as a manifesto as to the reasons why this individual was doing what they were doing. I'm fine with going into that, but not right now. Not even at the time when I was preparing to do this video. Not even 12 hours. These people are not even in the ground. For the children, for their parents to go and to identify them in the morgue. For the loved ones of the faculty that would have to do the same. We're early on funeral arrangements. Can't you have the decency of waiting until the funeral? There's a picture circulating of a little girl on the bus heading to one of those sites. Went into the site for the parents to collect their children, crying. Local Tennessee news. Local news was on, and as they were reporting this, some of the anchors live on air was checking their phones, checking for the status of their own children, and crying on air. Apparently, it's too much to ask to wait a week. Since it was too much for the Colorado Springs shooting, it was too much to ask for a week. To wait before the political fucking reindeer games. For certain people. Or go into who or what the shooter was. And the implications of that. It's too much to ask for a week, right? Right? So the next time there's a shooting, shall I humbly ask you for the sake of human decency, ask you to wait 1 day before you turn dead people into props, to turn a tragedy into something that you can spin for your narrative. And this is for everyone, not left, not right. Anyone that thinks that they can get some advantage and score some points or do a little fucking I told you so or a little gotcha bullshit. The next time there's a shooting, give me 1 day. Give the people grieving 1 day. Am I asking too much out of any of you? Because after that 1 day, we can go ahead and go into the minutia, go into the politics, go into, the conflicts and intrigue surrounding the person. Fine. I'll get into it as much as you will get into it. I'll weigh my opinions on that as thick as you are. And I will point out those who are going into this for their own narratives, for their own political scoring points, for their, own media attention. But not now. Not this video. That's why I'm restraining myself. One day. Next time, just give me one day. For me, for grieving families, for people who remember this because of their experience in their own shootings that they've gone through, for the victims. Just think about it.